All right, it's very late and I'm motivated at the moment. So I just wanted to take a second, because it was on my mind, to go over this entire CX Racing turbo kit install on the IS300 so that I can possibly save a lot of people a lot of time and fabrication, and also minimize all of the potential failures. So give me 1 second, I'll flip the camera around and show you everything I've been doing and what has been taking this turbo kit so long to finish. How do I rotate the screen? Nope. Alright, so I'm gonna have to merge these little clips together, but alright, let's go over this real quick. So the very first thing you'll notice when you receive your CX Racing kit is the manifold, right? You're going to look over it, you're going to say, wow, this is not bad for something that's sold on eBay. And I noticed my particular manifold, and I've seen that other ones were not, but this particular manifold was back purged, and it was welded, and they used 12 gauge tubing, stainless steel tubing with a cast merge collector. I wish the merge had a little bit more meat so I could, port it out a little bit to promote slightly better flow to the wastegate and better flow to the turbo, but it is what it is. It's like a $450 manifold, and somebody definitely put a bunch of hours into that. So I would say this is probably good bang for the buck, but I'll let you know next year how well it holds up. So after you look over your manifold, you'll notice all of the accessories and things that come with your turbo. The oil lines are absolute trash. I did not have time to get a new oil feed, so I am going to use the one that it came with and hope and pray that it doesn't leak before the dyno. If not, whatever, I'll take a ride up to Bruce's and get everything same day and just change it out with proper stuff. But I did a lot of research, and every single person that has installed this kit, I've read tons and tons and tons of pages, something people don't like to do anymore for some reason, but everyone says after about a week of driving, you will start to destroy the oil return that comes with the kit. So I spent the better part of 2 days making something that will hopefully not burn, and was able to fit in this incredibly ridiculously tight space that you're given with this manifold. Only change I would make to the manifold is they should have raised the merge collector up. Should have raised it up just about an inch, maybe 2 inches. 2 inches would be nice, but you'd have plenty of clearance if you just raised it straight up 2 inches. You'd still be able to clear strut tower, the crossover intake manifold, everything. You just put a tighter radius off the throttle body for the charge piping, and bam, done. But I digress. This is what I'm working with, and I told myself before I do anything, only things I will buy are oil feed related. I will use every other part of the kit that was supplied. So, as far as the oil feed, I got a vibrant flange. I got some I've tried them, tested them, they work good. Evil Energy -10AN fittings, Vibrant steel braided -10AN line, and then I got some DEI or whatever the hell it's called, split heat shield, like it's like split loom, like wire loom. I got 2 pieces on it, and then it's stainless steel strapped, and then I have aluminum foil tape on the fitting up top, and then I drilled and tapped the oil pan to 1/2 inch NPT and ran a -10 to 1/2 inch NPT. What is it? I believe it's a Vibrant fitting, but it might not be. So hopefully my attention to heat management pays off, because as you can see, I also spent a few hours wrapping and taking care of this manifold, then mounting the turbo with the supplied hardware is very, very difficult for someone who's not experienced. So I would highly recommend replacing the hardware with Allen head bolts and getting a long round tip Allen key to tighten them in with a ratchet. You can use a gasket, or you can opt out of using a gasket on this manifold. Like, it's your choice. If you decide not to use a gasket, just run it, idle it, let the manifold get really hot, then retorque the bolts, let it cool, check the torque again on the bolts, and then you're good to go. It won't leak. You'll never blow out a gasket. You'll be good. I do that on every single one of my turbo setups, and it works great. I only use a gasket if the owner demands the use of a gasket. So the kit offers 17mm head bolts. In order to use those bolts, you have to tighten the turbo onto the manifold before you install it, or you're never ever going to be able to tighten 17mm bolts on the turbo flange with both housings installed, manifold installed, water lines on, all that. It's just like, this was the only position I could clock it to in order to fit 10AN fittings under this particular turbo. It really is a crap turbo, and I would highly recommend buying this kit without the turbo and then purchasing a turbo from a company like Boost Labs. They have reasonably priced, high quality, precision built turbos, and it's a way better option than this. But anyway, further move on. As you can see, I use the water cooled option, which hopefully will help prolong the life of this turbo. Even though we have plans to upgrade by this winter, we want to have fun this summer, so please stay together. Let's see. I used the existing hoses. Again, the only thing I allowed myself to replace on this kit before starting this build was the oil lines. And so far I've only done the return line. I'm still going to use the feed line that came with the kit. Yeah, and then the downpipe surprisingly fits very well. The welding is pretty good. I have no complaints with the exhaust. The owner of the IS was lucky enough to buy the brand new tile wastegate from the owner of the CRX. So that was nice. The wastegate is upgraded, but you can get away with running the CX Racing wastegate that comes with the kit. If you can, I would recommend buy the kit for the piping and the manifold and get everything else. You know, get quality wastegate, quality blow-off valve, quality turbo, quality oil lines, high quality, high flow injectors, and a good fuel pump. Tune the car, and these kits will do wonders for a street car. Like, if you are on a budget, it's not a bad kit to start with. Just the main components are definitely super cheap. And just like a very poor design, no thought into install and assembly. Like, it's a pain in the ass to deal with. But I also torched and bent the coolant tubes so that they fit the coolant lines I already had in here. Yeah. And then we have the JDM rad support, and the bracket they supplied has to be bent and straightened in order to bolt on. So right now it's held on with those straps, so that's going to get changed. But yeah, hopefully everything I've taken care of is going to last a long time. Based on previous builds, all of this should work excellently and last for at least the life of this stock head gasket. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's coming out again soon, so I'll at least be able to give you a review on how well my modifications worked. But yeah, at this point, I don't see having any issues other than the fact that the owner decided to skip all of the steps I told him to do before installing the turbo kit, because everyone else has a turbo this summer, and he's impatient. But we'll tune it. We'll keep the boost kind of low, let him have fun with it, then turn it up one day and pop it. So that'll be fun. We're gonna do a full head package, cams, ARP head studs, multi-layer gasket, timing belt, water pump, all that stuff. Possibly, if we have time or it's in the budget at the moment, we'll do same pistons, same rods, re-ring it, hone it, and put upgraded rod bolts in, or rod studs. I honestly am not remembering what the factory VVTi rods have, but whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to upgrade whatever it has. Resize the rods, new bearings, everything, you know. Full bottom end build, but with stock components. Because I don't think we're ever going to go over 600, and I'm fairly certain these rods can handle 600 no problem. But yeah, this is going to be a fun project. Eventually we're going to, like I said, swap the turbo. I might even try and get a reverse housing turbo so that we can keep this manifold and just modify the charge piping when we go with the forward-facing throttle body manifold. And when we do that modification, we are going to electric power steering. Hopefully, that's my goal. We'll see what Chris ends up wanting to do, But yeah, this is going to be fun. Turns out this tiny little Odyssey battery that we've been running has been absolutely flawless. The 30-minute battery tray that I made with a Harbor Freight welder has worked out excellently. The billet Honda tie down also absolutely 100% functional. Can't wait to wire tuck this thing and clean this engine bay, possibly paint it, maybe, we'll see. But it's hard. And I don't know how far or how much time Chris wants to put in on this on his own. If it ends up being just me for everything, this will probably not be done until like 2023. But we're going to have fun. We're going drifting with it. We're going to see what happens. So yeah, I hope someone gets some use out of the few tips that I gave you about this kit. Things that I noticed as soon as I opened it. Things that I read from other people who assembled these kits themselves. I wanted to make sure we had absolutely no headaches after it started running. Like, apparently 90% of the people who've used these kits have. Almost every single one that I saw on YouTube, the guys are like 2-3 weeks after I installed it and got it tuned, the oil line melted. Almost set my car on fire. I saw one guy actually did set his car on fire. So, yeah, I highly recommend protecting your oil drain, especially on this turbo kit, but on every turbo kit. Spend a lot of time routing and designing your oil line and angling it so that it promotes flow. Port your drain flange so that it is set up to want to pull the oil down into the hose. The more you focus on the oiling of these cheap-ass turbos, the longer they last. And I know this from personal experience. I've used too many of these cheap-ass turbos, but I've had great success. I've personally only broken one of my own turbos, and I did 16 passes at Island Dragway back to back, and then drove home to Garfield from Hackettstown, wherever Island is. Raced a Corvette on 80. Actually, that night I drove to Leonia because I met up with my boy Justin, who was with me at the track. We went to his house. So I drove all the way from Hackettstown to Leonia. On the way there, raced after 16 full passes, beating the hell out of this turbo. I raced a vet, and at the top of fourth, I was at, I don't know, like 13 pounds of boost. And then all of a sudden, no boost. So, babied it to Justin's house, got out, checked it. I saw a vacuum line was popped off, put that back on, thought I fixed it, drove home, still no boost. Next morning, start the car, and the turbine did not spin. Wouldn't rotate at all. So I pulled the turbo off, took it apart, and I warped the turbine shaft. Luckily, I had another crappy $120 eBay turbo sitting in the garage. I put my modified cold side housing, which not really modified, just drilled and tapped for a 1/8 MPT fitting. But I swapped the housing from the messed up turbo onto the new turbo, pre-oiled it. I squeezed some Lucas assembly lube in there, spun it a couple times with a drill on the front nut. Yes, it does work, and it helps keep these things from blowing up in your first month. But yeah, put some Lucas in it, spin it, put a nut right there on the front, spin it clockwise like you're tightening it. Not too crazy, just rotate it a little bit. Keep your hand steady and straight. Let oil drain out the drain. And then when you bolt it in and you get ready for first startup, I highly recommend removing your spark plugs, disconnecting your fuel system, and just letting the starter spin the motor to build oil pressure with all the lines on the turbo, and let oil circulate for like 30 seconds. You don't have to go nuts. But you definitely want to pre-fill for the first startup, pre-fill the feed line, and you should have tons of fun with an eBay turbo. Just don't push them past like 20 psi. I personally would stay at like 18 on any size one of these turbos. Keep it 18 or lower and you'll have tons of fun. Or buy 3 of them and push it as far as it'll go. But yeah, this IS300 is going to be a missile. Chris is going to break it many, many times. I'm going to fix it many, many times. We're going to modify, repair, rebuild, and have a lot of fun with this car until someone comes along and pays us a ton of money to give it to them. But until that day, this is going to be in the stable. Oh, one last thing. The intercooler, not too shabby. They used what looks to be like a dual core radiator center housing or center core for the upper section, and then welded a 4-row core on the lower section. So it's like 2 wide up top, goes the full length of the bumper support, and then it's twice as thick on the bottom. So we're gonna, well, I'm going to Swiss cheese the front of this at some point, possibly before the dyno, but we'll see how the time frame goes, because I have tons of work to do. So many things to work on. So yeah, this is the first of possibly many, possibly the last informative videos that I'll make. Let me know if you enjoy this type of content. If you do, I'll make more. If you don't, I might make more anyway. I don't care. I might not. Who knows? But I think I'll start giving the world some of my knowledge, a little at a time, little tips and tricks here and there, and we'll see where we go with all of this fun stuff we got going on.